Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
We all have our own opinions about how the Star Wars sequels have been handled and if they're good films or not, but one thing we're always interested in is hearing how the people who make the films and the people who are involved, and mainly the cast and the actors, what they think about the films that they're involved with, what they think about the story. And it seems that recently John Boyega himself has been a little disappointed. There's a tweet right here that says, I hope after episode 9 we hear the true feelings from the actors. Seeing Game of Thrones actors voice their displeasure with the way their show ended gives me hope. I suspect we will hear similar stuff January/February next year. Episode 7 was okay, episode 8 was shit, hopefully episode 9 is good. And I agree with the kind of message right there. There's some wording problems, but John Boyega replies with saying, don't worry, I most definitely will. So he's going to talk about his displeasure. He's going to talk about his true feelings. And I think that's the main message he wanted you to take away from that, is that he will talk about his true feelings about the Star Wars sequels. And I like that. I like hearing that he's going to open up about it, because we've only had a few actors that have been really honest, and those are people like Mark Hamill or Simon Pegg, and people who really just don't care about Disney or Lucasfilm getting mad at them and on their thoughts. This next tweet is also pretty interesting. They say John Boyega is the most useless character in the current Star Wars franchise, but you don't hear him saying anything at how bad that writing is. And John replies with saying, I have those discussions on set. And you can interpret that as you want, like what he's really discussing on set, if his character's useless, or how bad the writing is, or if he talks about the writing on set with his co-stars and the cast. And I like the fact that he's finally kind of opening up, though, because this honesty and openness with the fandom is something a lot of fans like myself, and it gives us a behind-the-scenes look and more in-depth look in how these films were made, because one thing we know for sure is that every single Disney Star Wars film today, and I'm not exaggerating and I'm not even saying this to hate on them, has been rushed or has had production problems. Every single one. Episode 7 had a script rewrite. They had to change the writer. Michael Arden had to get off. Episode 8 delayed 8 months with Rian Johnson's script. Episode 9, Colin Trevorrow left the project due to a bad script, apparently, and then brought in J.J. Abrams. Rogue One had reshoots laid in the project. They took away Gareth Edwards and brought in that Tony guy. I can't remember his last name, I'm sorry. And then you had Solo. That's the famous one. You had the problems with the production on that. The directors couldn't get the process going. They brought in Ron Howard. And every single one, every single movie so far, not a single one hasn't had problems. And that's baffling. And it's one of those things where you really do wonder what's been the thought process on the cast. How has the cast reacted to it? Have they noticed these behind-the-scenes production problems and what's been going on? And it's one of those things where you almost miss Lucas on what the behind-the-scenes footage would show you. Because I'm a big fan on how these films are made and the history and all that stuff. Because a lot of people forget about this stuff. 10, 20 years, people are going to forget of all the behind-the-scenes trouble that these films had and everything. But there's history to that on how these films were made. And a lot of the original trilogy history on how those films have been made have been lost. The stories behind that and everything have kind of been, watered down in a lot of ways. So I think that remembering this stuff is important. And the way that Disney and Lucasfilm are going to want you to remember these films is that they were very fun and that they were very easy and fun times to make. Look at the behind-the-scenes footage on The Force Awakens, on The Last Jedi. You're not going to see any problems. Everything's really happy. Everyone's having a great time. There's no struggle in the world at all. I don't even think you really got much with the Rogue One behind the scenes, and I'm pretty confident you definitely didn't get anything for the Solo behind the scenes stuff. You have the books that come out, the making of Solo. They always have these for all the movies, and they changed it up recently with the making of Solo. There was an original author who was doing it for some time, and I think they changed it up out of nowhere for no reason on who was working on the behind the scenes stuff. And I think that's for a very apparent reason. I think Disney and Lucasfilm want these films to be remembered in 10 to 20 years with a lot of nostalgia. And when you look at the behind the scenes footage in 10 to 20 years, the only footage you're going to see is the stuff that's on the behind the scenes documentaries. And you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, oh, look how glossy and happy and everything is. Lucas didn't show that stuff. Lucas showed all the actual real emotions that were going on behind the scenes, whether they were good, bad. A lot of them were just really fucking awkward to watch.
Peruska? Cut. Let's try it again.
And that's exactly what you need. You can tell that there was some uncomfortableness and some problems behind the scenes with making the prequels and George Lucas. And that's not even a bash on the prequels or George Lucas himself. That's just what happens when you make a movie. I mean, episode 1, you had that storm where it destroyed all of their props for the speed race, for the pod racer scene. So that was problems on the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see in The Force Awakens, that you don't see in The Last Jedi. And why is that? Because they want you to remember it in a very fond way, and they want it to go down in history as something that went over very well, so kids who are growing up with the sequels can look back fondly on it. And that's the entire goal here. And so with John Boyega and these other people who are going to come out and give their true feelings on this, that's going to be something Disney and Lucasfilm was not fond of. Once they're done, premiere's over, movie's out, and he's no longer working with Lucasfilm, he's going to go off and do other projects that are not Star Wars. I don't think he could care less what Lucasfilm and Disney thinks about it, what he has to say about the films. So that's probably why he's going to say that, like this person said, in January, February. And I'm excited to hear what these people truly think. I mean, if he comes out and he says, I love Rose to death, she's my favorite character, episodes 7, 8, 9 are my favorite movies, and here's why, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm willing to listen to him. And if he says that, I'm going to be like, hey, dude, I disagree with you on some things, but in the end, I just want to hear his true feelings. And it's nice to know that he'll finally give that out. Hopefully he's not bullshitting us. Hopefully he's not trolling us. But let's see. What are your thoughts? Tell me, do you think this is all going to come out in the future? Do you think we're actually going to get a lot of information on what these actors and cast members truly felt about the sequel trilogy? Or do you think they're just going to keep it, under wraps and not talk about it? Tell me your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll see y'all next time, and may the Force be with you always.